On a certain afternoon, a woman named Karen approached me insistently while I was by the roadside. She wanted to buy my dog and wouldn't take no for an answer. Despite her persistence, I had to be firm and make it clear that he was not for sale. Here is the account of what happened. My partner and I have 2 dogs that are like children to us, including our little 2.5-year-old. My parents always treated them as big puppies, and we are dedicated to providing them with a life full of happiness. Arlo, the older one, is a majestic blue-coated Great Dane. He is a charming, affectionate dog and could be compared to Scooby-Doo, if not for the color difference. Daphne, our beloved mutt, is the second oldest. The daughter of a German Shepherd mixed with a Rottweiler, she won our hearts with her sharp intelligence. In fact, she is so smart that we have to keep the front door locked because she can open it. One day, while my partner was walking Arlo and Daphne, I had to return home early because our son fell asleep. If I didn't, he would stay awake late into the night. As my partner continued the walk, passing by the local school, a car stopped abruptly on the road. A lady, staring intently at our dogs, pointed to Arlo and asked how much he cost. My partner, confused by the unexpected approach, replied that Arlo was not for sale. But the woman insisted, refusing to accept the refusal. They argued for a while, with her offering money and my partner reaffirming that Arlo was priceless. That Karen then blurted out an absurd statement, suggesting that everything has a price. This infuriated my partner, who responded vehemently, explaining that Arlo was part of the family and that we were not interested in selling him, regardless of the offer. When my partner returned home and told me about the incident, we were shocked. We couldn't believe that someone could be so audacious as to try to buy our dog in the middle of the street. To us, Arlo and Daphne are more than just dogs. They are members of our family, and there is no amount of money in the world that would make us consider selling them, much less to someone as disrespectful as that Karen. I feel an inexpressible outrage at the thought that someone could suggest selling my beloved pet. It is inconceivable to me. Such an absurd and disrespectful proposal. Admirable is the decision to stand firm and refuse such an offer. For the value of a loved one, even an animal, transcends any monetary figure. Recently, a woman threatened to defame me on social media for allegedly selling a defective product. I had put up for sale a keyboard I acquired, and after some time available online, an interested lady contacted me. We set a meeting point, and during the transaction, I explained that the keyboard might not be compatible with consoles, something I had previously mentioned. She agreed and bought the keyboard for $80, although I had only asked for $35, resulting in an unexpected profit. Days later, the same lady sent me accusatory messages, claiming that the keyboard did not work, despite my having tested it before the sale. I reiterated that I had warned about the possible incompatibility with consoles, and she insisted that it did not work on her Apple computer. Faced with her threat to expose the incident on social media, I maintained my position, refusing the refund, as the money had already been spent. The situation is ironic because, despite clear warnings, people tend to ignore and get frustrated when things don't work as expected. The lady probably should not use that keyboard for her computer, but the responsibility is not the seller's. It's a reminder that when buying something secondhand, one should be aware of the risks, instead of blaming the seller when things don't go as planned. In my view, it's as if we're at the lowest point when acquiring any secondhand electronics. After all, it has already passed through someone else's hands and has been used for an unknown period. So why not opt for something new? Or, at the very least, choose a product that you're sure will work on your computer? Otherwise, when you reach 80 years old, you might regret not having invested in something new. Recently, I was perplexed by a situation involving a friend and former coworker. I'll call her Sarah, not her real name, with whom I've been friends for 8 years. We had already met in person before we worked together again. When that happened, it was a happy coincidence, and we shared the enthusiasm for collaborating on successful projects. Although we've taken different paths, we've kept in touch, and I've always considered her one of my best friends. Having worked so closely, I used Sarah as a reference for some job opportunities. I never listed her as a supervisor, but rather as a colleague, and there were never any problems, as far as I knew. Recently, I applied for a new job and reached the final stages. It's possible that her career isn't going as she wished, and part of that may be by her own choice. She opted not to work full-time, declined promotions, and as a result, many of her jobs were subordinate, with tasks similar to data entry. She often expresses dissatisfaction with this, and I, as a friend, try to offer my support in the best way possible. I don't know if this influenced recent events, but Sarah had a child and left all her jobs. As far as I know, she doesn't plan to return to work. I can't see how her husband could support both of them, especially in this economy. But it seems they've found a solution, which is great. It's none of my business, and I would never comment on it. However, I was shocked to learn that one of my references for the new job raised concerns. After asking for a status update, I discovered they were contacting all my references for clarification. Confused, I sent a message to Sarah, as we've always maintained casual contact. She hoped she wasn't the one causing trouble, but then she showed me the email she sent. The criticism she made about frequent typos and editing errors in my writing, attributed to carelessness and not a lack of knowledge, are not true in a professional context. While they may occur in our casual conversations, in the workplace, writing, reviewing, and editing are aspects in which I excel. I understand that this can become a problem. There are other issues that I prefer not to discuss right now, but I don't understand why someone would write something like this after agreeing to provide a reference, unless they were absolutely convinced that the person in question was so detestable that it was necessary to warn against their hiring. Honestly, I am so surprised and hurt that I am at a loss for words. I confessed to her that I believe this will be a major obstacle in getting the job I want, and all she could say was a simple sorry. I didn't know how to react. These 30 years are confusing. Can I still save our friendship? Is this insensitivity, stupidity, or something even worse? What can I say to make it clear that this goes beyond a simple too bad? I am shocked and questioning everything about our friendship. This person is not your true friend. She is sabotaging your chance of getting a better job, probably out of jealousy or some hidden resentment. Not for something you did, but perhaps out of envy of your position. Who would act this way? Especially someone we consider a friend. She knew exactly the kind of job you were looking for and made sure to say things that would damage your credibility for that job. This is clearly deliberate and malicious, and in my opinion, unforgivable. I would cut ties with this person immediately. There's no way to tolerate such behavior. If she were really a friend, she wouldn't show her true face at such a crucial moment. You've invested time and energy in this relationship, and it's unacceptable for her to try to harm you this way. It's horrible, and your instincts are correct. I would never speak to her again, cut my losses, and know that I could never count on her for anything again. This makes me think of other situations she may have tried to sabotage. Maybe she's been doing this for years without you realizing it, and other job opportunities may have been lost because of her. Yes, distance yourself from this person and find a better reference. If she really cared, she wouldn't try to destroy your career. As for my roommates, they don't like it when my boyfriend comes to visit, and honestly, I don't know what to do. I've been with him for 3 years and have lived with these people for 2. It's not a novelty. They were friendly at first, but after a year, they became bitter and refused to speak to him or even acknowledge his presence, although they continued to be friendly with me. I've discussed this with them before, and they agreed to be at least cordial and respond to the greeting. It was something that bothered me, their indifference. Whenever I questioned what could be wrong or if my boyfriend had done something to displease them, the answer was vague. They simply had no affinity for him. This left me frustrated. It seemed such a childish attitude. My boyfriend, in turn, would just greet them before we retreated to the room. He barely spent time with them, not enough to cause any real discomfort. His cordiality was met with silence or visible displeasure. If he tried to start a conversation, they would exchange glances before ignoring him, which I found ridiculous and rude. I didn't expect them to owe him anything, but a minimum of courtesy was expected. He usually visits us only on Fridays and Saturdays, an arrangement we all considered fair, especially after an occasion when he overstayed a whole week due to fumigation in his apartment. But whenever he leaves, it's as if a button is pressed, and my roommates become irritated again, both with me and with him. We try to be discreet, spending most of the time in my room, but it seems that his mere presence is a trigger for them, especially for the 37-year-old roommate. This particular roommate never communicates directly with me, preferring to complain until another roommate intervenes, which exasperates me. When I ask if something is wrong, the answer is always nothing, leaving me in doubt about their true feelings. A smile one moment, indifference the next. It's confusing, and I feel lost. My roommates rarely go out, except for shopping, and they almost never have visitors. They spend the day in their rooms or watching anime, an activity I also enjoy and sometimes join them in. This has created a close bond between them, making them somewhat exclusive, especially in the presence of my boyfriend. When they receive friends, they are respectful and attentive, which makes the situation even more frustrating for me. The immature attitude of my roommates, the lack of communication despite their age, is unacceptable. If there is something that bothers them about my boyfriend, they should express it so we could resolve it. But without dialogue, nothing changes. This behavior deeply irritates me, especially when complaints are followed by obstinate silence. I'm at an impasse and honestly don't know how to proceed. What's going on here? So, this person claims everything is fine. If that's the case, congratulations. But I can't solve what's troubling you if you don't admit there's a problem, even though your actions suggest otherwise. It's completely absurd to act this way, as it's unfair to everyone involved. You seem to be harboring some resentment and don't take the initiative to resolve the issue. You prefer everyone to be unhappy at home, just because of your stubbornness and lack of communication. I'm not saying your partner doesn't have aspects to improve. Perhaps his presence bothers others, as he's always there on Fridays and Saturdays, and everyone has to tolerate it. However, from what has been described, he doesn't seem to do anything intentionally to annoy anyone. Just his presence is enough to irritate, which is ridiculous in itself. It would be different if he were offensive or provoked someone. But if your roommates just watch anime all day, what's the real problem? An obvious solution would be to go to your boyfriend's house. Your roommates are acting childishly. There's no reason to bring your boyfriend over if you've already tried to communicate and seek a middle ground. But nothing works because they behave like children. In my view, go to your boyfriend's house from now on. It's not worth dealing with people who rarely socialize and don't need to be your friends but hold a hidden grudge without reason. That's ridiculous and not something you should tolerate. What would you do in this situation? Leave a comment below. We'd like to know. I'm establishing new boundaries for visits after my family abused my hospitality. I work from home full-time, and we have 4 bedrooms. The main one, where I sleep with my husband, one for each of our children, and my office. Previously, my office also served as a guest room, but this became unfeasible as I started working more hours. Friends and relatives came frequently, disturbing my work. I had to adapt my office to the main bedroom and alternate between work and hosting, which is impractical, as my husband works at night and sleeps during the day. Our extended family has come to rely on this space, as we live near an urban center and they reside further away. It seems we're being exploited, considering the many affordable hotels in the area and that no one is in financial difficulty. Recently, a guest stayed with us for 2 months uninvited, as their spouse was hospitalized in the area. In the first few weeks, our generosity was evident, but over time, tension increased at my job, in our marriage, and in our household routine. The visitor, the spouse of a hospitalized patient, was not in immediate danger, and despite our empathy for the situation, we believed it would be more feasible if he visited us only on weekends. However, he rudely dismissed our suggestions, proving to be a difficult person to live with without respecting boundaries. As a result, I found myself overwhelmed, trying to balance my job with domestic demands, which led to delays and anxiety. The situation was so challenging that we resorted to couples therapy. The conflicts and feelings of helplessness were significant obstacles for us. Fortunately, today we are better and on a path to recovery. The visitor was discharged and returned home. I decided to be firm and establish clear rules. From now on, visitors may only use the couch for a maximum of 2 nights, or they must find a hotel. My husband supports this decision, although we know it will displease some relatives, especially those who overstayed what was acceptable. The anxiety about how they will react remains, even though they have the financial means to stay in a hotel. This leads me to question, am I wrong for imposing these limits? The answer is no. Setting boundaries is essential to regain control of our life and home. It is unacceptable for visitors to impose their presence without prior consultation. Therefore, congratulations on reaffirming your space and limits, as you have already been more welcoming than expected, hosting someone for 2 months without a formal request. Continuing to receive stories and updates is simple. Just subscribe and activate notifications. Use the playlist to keep up with everything.